The original version of this video was uploaded to Jason Verney's YouTube channel, where it and many other videos, podcasts, snippets and films can be found. That channel can be found at youtube.com/Jason Verney. This is the Not So Korean podcast, and I am Jason Verney.
And I am Timothy Holm.
In this podcast series, we talk to one another, and sometimes with special guests, about
what we know about Korea,
what we don't know about Korea,
what we want to know about Korea,
and occasionally what we don't want to know about Korea. Recording live from UK's Koreatown itself, an area in and around New Malden. Yes, the largest Koreatown and Korean community in Europe. We'll start this episode off with a quick summary of the last few days and what we've been up to. So, Tim, shall I start with you or shall I start with me?
Fine.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. So here we go again. Tim, so what have you been up to?
Well, there have been a few things, and as usual, you've been involved with several of these things, so you probably know already. But I suppose the main thing was today, actually, earlier today, when we're recording this, there was a book club event with hosted by the KCCUK, the Korean Cultural Center, and it was a book club event. It was held through Zoom. Yeah. And so it was for this author named Hong Yeon-sik. And he's a Korean manhwa artist. Manhwa is like comic books or graphic novels.
Yeah, it goes back years.
Yeah, I mean, so the name of the book was Oma's Table. And he did a little live drawing, and then he had an interview, and it was really quite interesting, especially if you're into that kind of cartoons or whatever.
You were telling me, sorry to butt in, but you were telling me that it was a Canadian.
Yes, actually, so KCC sent me a copy of the book, and it's I found out after I received it that the translator is actually from Vancouver. I mean, she's Korean-Canadian, I believe, Janet Hong. And she also translated another graphic novel that you read recently called Grass.
Yeah, very good book.
Yeah.
Kim Suk-Gendry Kim is the author.
Right, and that was about the comfort women. But this is a little lighter subject. It's about, like, families, or a family that's living in the countryside in Korea. They moved from a big city.
Okay.
And it's also a lot about Korean food. So, so anyway, the translator's Canadian, and also the publisher is also based in Montreal, in Quebec. So so that was interesting, because I'm from Canada originally, but in case anyone doesn't know already. It's a really interesting graphic novel. I actually read another one by the same author called, what was it now? Uncomfortably Happily, something like that, I think.
Okay.
It's kind of a strange title. It doesn't sound sound like a perfect translation, but I think it is as close as they could get to, an accurate translation.
And I think for people who would listen to last week's show about us, who Dia on Korea was on it, and she posted, as we're recording this today, she posted a video of the artist doing some live drawing.
Yeah, I also posted a video of that on my personal Instagram, but maybe I'll post that on the Not So Korean podcast. That was good
that he did that
as well.
Live sort of thing.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that, because I think he's a fairly well-known artist in Korea for that sort of thing. So to see him actually doing drawings, in real life, in real life, so to speak,
person,
in virtual reality.
In person, but not quite.
It was quite cool.
Okay,
Anyway,
and that
so,
kind of and that from
yeah.
that did end. I think that's actually ended their season of graphic novels, or even just literature. They've
The KCC, they had about 4, I suppose, in the past,
I've
4 months. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we covered a couple in this show very briefly. One was Grass, which you mentioned just now.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was the Kimbo Young novel, which is I'm Waiting for You. Quite a hard read. It's a few stories that sort of
it's kind of science fiction, wasn't it?
Yeah. And the first one we actually both got and we both read, I believe, To the Warm Horizon, which was by Jin Young Che, translated by Soje.
Yeah.
Tim knows more about this translator. He is a translator.
And that was also sort of science fictional, like set in a post-apocalyptic future, not that different from what we're living in.
That book is. Yeah, you're right. I love that book.
There was like a contagious disease that takes over the planet or something.
They must have known.
Sounds familiar, right? So
yeah.
Anyway, so they finished the KCC. They finished those for at least for the time being. I suppose they'll start maybe again later next year.
Yeah, I'm guessing either later, the end of this year or next year. We don't know.
Right, but they do have some other events coming up, including.
They have the London Korean Film Festival, which will happening in some form or another, won't it, later this year?
Yeah. So that should be really interesting because they always put together a good program.
Yeah, we've been going to that for a few years.
Yes, and more importantly for us, there is the Hallyu Con, which is coming up on September 4th.
Yeah.
And that is like all about promoting Korean culture to the world, basically. Like it's going to be live streamed.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a bunch of different videos relating to Korean culture by different people.
Yeah, and we were...
Yeah, including...
Yeah, we were involved with... We've been involved with more than one, but one that features as the Hallyu Con is regarding... We might have mentioned this in a previous episode, but it's regarding rice cooking and rice tasting and even washing with rice. But it's a little video that's going to appear as part of Hallyu Con. It was a collaboration with KBCE, Korean British Cultural Exchange. And
Hanguk Hapa was also involved with that video.
Oh yes, that's right. And so the other thing.
Speaking of Hanguk Hapa.
Yeah, speaking of, so tell me what. Yeah, well, you were going to carry on with what you've been up to, and.
Well, we had lunch with her this past week.
Had a nice talk with her, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a really interesting chat, both for our podcast and just generally getting to know her better.
Yeah.
And so look forward to that interview coming up soon. It actually may be split into 2 interviews because we just had so much to talk about.
Yeah, we're probably going to interview her again as well, and she's keen to get involved with us with other projects in the future.
Yeah.
We both thought, going from what Tim's been up to what I've been up to, just because this involves both of us yet again.
Yeah.
And that's Paul Quinn from hangulcelluloid.com. He did a brilliant talk this week on Tuesday, and it was just very, very good. I mean, he could have spoke for so much longer, and he probably pretty much admitted that. But
that was another Zoom call, right?
Yeah, Zoom call. I think there was about 80 people that had registered, and not quite that many turned up. But it was very good.
Quite a lot of people there, though.
Some films we hadn't seen, and he knows his stuff. I've known him for about almost a decade myself, actually. But he's very knowledgeable in Korean film. Yeah.
So basically he was just talking about like modern Korean cinema, but specifically he wanted to highlight the more quirky films or the little more obscure films that people don't talk about as
it's
much,
not all violence. It's the genre bending ones as well. And but leading on from that, what I also been up to is just a bit of a plug here for my own website, minimovie.com. Because there's a Korean film that did really well that's coming out. I did basically an article and a press release and a mini review about in that film. It's called Beasts Clawing at Straws, which you've seen, I think. Yeah. And so you can go to my website, miniminimovie.com, and see that if you like. I mean, it's a good film for what it was.
Yeah, it's an interesting film. It is sort of a crime thriller. Like, it has some elements that reminded me of, like, Quentin Tarantino's movies. I don't know how you felt.
I suppose it does feel a bit like that. Yeah, I can see where people get that from. But it is
quite clever, and yes, it's quite violent. Speaking of Korean films and violence, but
the good thing was, I will say this. It is violent, but it doesn't resort to what a lot of Korean films resort to, which is guns. For a country that doesn't really have guns, there is violence, but it's a lot more to the film. I thought it was quite inventive, but yes.
Yeah, some good performances in there, including one by
John
Do-yeon, who I believe you met at one time.
Yeah, I met her before in Busan, which I did briefly mention or / brag about in the review, but and also it had some other big names as well. I think we might have met them as well. But just moving on, because we'll tell you why we're sort of doing a shorter episode this time, but I'll just finish off the other points that have happened to me this week. One small one, because Tim was mentioning to everyone, which includes me, of course, everyone, mentioning about Sue Lee, and she's this musician, and she speaks up for mental health issues and things. And I sort of checked her stuff out more, because I like, what she's doing is really good, and it's she does a few covers, but she also does a lot of original stuff, and she's you were right, she is really good, and she's more an artist than any other sort of she's an artist in many ways, I feel.
Yeah, it's very personal stuff to her. It's not like she's trying to be a K-pop star or anything like that.
She's more Korean Indian than anything. Yeah.
I do think she's going to be very successful going forward, now that people have sort of caught on to what she's doing. Yeah.
And earlier this week she had her first live gig, which is went down well, apparently, according to her.
Yeah, that was in Los Angeles, I believe, and now she seems to be in New York, so I'm not sure if she's doing a show there now.
Well, I was commenting because she was educated a lot in the UK, but she's got more of an American accent. But that does happen to Koreans sometimes. And the last thing that I have been up to, this is a bit of a quite a gimmicky thing, really. But I was in where we live in Koreatown, New Malden. There's quite a few charity shops, to say the least. Yeah. And there was a couple of DVDs which are Korean, but they're Chinese.
They're produced in China or something, maybe for the Chinese market originally.
Yeah, they're legal. They seem they're not legal or anything. But there's but I picked them up. Well, I picked the bargain price. It hasn't been unwrapped. It's the series, or the Korean drama, I guess you would call it, Sangdo. And Tim might know a bit more about this, but I couldn't work out if it had English subtitles. It's 50 episodes in a 2-box set.
Yeah, I figured out that it does have English subtitles, but we haven't actually watched them yet. But
it might take some time as well.
Yeah, it was just I think the dramas that they made back in the 90s. This one I think is from the late 90s probably, or early 2000s maybe.
Yeah.
Those were quite good, and this is a historical drama, or what they call saguk. Set usually in the Joseon Dynasty, and some of them they went up to 50 episodes. Like a lot of the dramas these days are more like 10 or 20 episodes, right? But they did have good stories, good acting. I mean, the seeing the historical scenery and everything is quite interesting. So if you're into that sort of thing, then it might be good.
Yeah, I could even potentially lend it to someone out there. We will see how we get on. But there was another one in there which you knew more about.
Hallyu, which is based on a famous Joseon Dynasty physician who wrote, I think, like the first medical text about Korean medicine, traditional Korean medicine.
Okay.
So he's a very famous person in Korean history, and they made this long drama about him. And I did watch most of that, I think, back in the day.
You recommend it?
Yeah, I do recommend it.
Okay, well, maybe if it's a complete series, I might go back in there again and just hope it's got English subtitles and purchase it. If it's still there.
I mean, probably a lot of these dramas you can find on Netflix these days. I don't know. I don't use Netflix that much, but I heard they have a huge K-drama section, apparently.
Yeah, I will say it was a novelty factor for me. It was brand new. It was Chinese, Korean, and this community. Of course, we've got a heavy Korean Chinese community here in New Malden.
Maybe you could even learn some Chinese with it.
I could, I'm sure I can fit that into my busy schedule. Don't ask me to prove anything by next week's show, though. But so let's get on to the main topic of this show. It's you may have noticed that last week's show was sort of very long. It was our longest one. It was 45 minutes. But after all, it did have... The last two shows actually have had interviews. And we'll actually tell you about our next interview at the end of this show. But because of that, we've chosen this one to do a short, haven't we? A short episode, and a very different style to our previous one. So do bear with us.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want people to get the impression that we're going to be doing an interview every single week. But,
that's correct.
But of course, we could do that if the listeners really want us to do an interview every single week.
Yeah, and what you've just said there, that will come up again in a moment.
Yeah.
But we're basically, this is our 8th episode, and we wanted to do like a feedback episode.
Yeah.
Where we're picking, because it's our 8th episode, we're kind of picking eight subjects or eight things about the show that we just like your feedback on.
Yeah.
We don't mind if we just get 1 or 2 people or 50 people or whatever, just to come back to us. Various methods you can do that by, which we'll tell you in a second. But we'll just go through those now, and we'll see what feedback you can give us. Even you give us any feedback on 1 or 2 of these points, and that's great as well.
Yeah.
So the first thing is that, those who kind of can't wait to click on our episode each week, week intolerance there, they will know that it's always, we basically put it out on a Saturday. But we have contemplated changing that because we want to know what people, we don't know what people prefer, and in this world podcasts get released all throughout the week. So
I mean, I have heard that a lot of podcasts put their episodes out on Sunday evenings, so we are considering possibly moving to Sunday evenings, but that would probably be after the next few weeks, not in the immediate future. But if other people have suggestions for say Monday or some other day that you prefer, if you like listening to it on Fridays, that's fine. Just let us know.
We might even change the frequency. I mean, we might even, if people are getting fed up with these weekly bombardments of podcasts, we potentially could change it to fortnightly. But that's another thing that we'll potentially contemplate. But at the moment, we're happy with doing these weekly. So that's the first question. Is basically number one. Is basically, are you happy with the Saturdays? If not, what day would you prefer? The next one, do you want to mention this or so?
So
number 2.
Number 2 is should we start a Facebook group instead of a regular Facebook page, which is what we have right now? Because with Facebook groups, it allows for more interaction, and you might get more updates on your news feed. Because at the moment we think a lot of people aren't actually getting, or they're not seeing the posts that we put on the Facebook page for Not So Korean Podcast.
That's right. I mean, sometimes Facebook doesn't even notify people when there's something posted in a page. But the groups are really good because not only does it mean that you can interact with us and we can interact with you, you can also get to know other people who might be listening to this and comment nice comments.
Hopefully.
Comments on, and you can get to know each other or whatever, but sort of a not so Korean podcast group. So that if that's number 2. If you'd like us to sort of go down that route, then we'll consider it. So that was number 2. If you want a Facebook group. Number 3, we're currently on platforms. Facebook, of course, everyone's on there. It seems Instagram. But we were wondering if people, if you guys out there would like us on any other, like Twitter or TikTok, Tumblr, which I don't know how many people use that these days, but any others.
Could go and Grindr or something.
Grindr, I'm not going to claim to know that what it is, but and no, we're not going dating route or that kind of dating.
No, just kidding. But of course we're also on YouTube, but
We'll come to that in a second.
We'll mention that in a minute.
Yeah, that's another big one we're on, because of course, we're on YouTube, but there is a community tab on that, but we haven't really started using it at the moment.
Yeah.
But so number 3 really is, is there any other platforms other than Instagram and Facebook and YouTube that you would like to see us on?
Yeah.
This one, do you want to mention this one, number 4?
Yeah, so number 4, we're just wondering if people are happy with the current duration or length of our podcast, because at the moment most of our episodes are roughly around 30 to 45 minutes in length.
Yeah.
So, is that a good length for you guys?
Yeah. Are you guys switching off? Or...
is that too long for you? Too short? Do you want 4 hours? Do you want 20 minutes? Whatever it is, please let us know.
This was just something we considered. So so we'll read this back to you in a second. But as I say, even if there's one of these questions that really sticks out to you, then that's fine as well. But number 5 basically is, we've got a YouTube channel, as we mentioned just now, but it's not actually our Not So Korean podcast YouTube channel. It's actually my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Jason Verning. Okay. But because it's my YouTube channel, it does have a lot of other stuff that I've filmed before, which means that if you subscribe and if you did hit the bell, or even if you didn't, I guess, you might get bombarded with older material of mine, which might relate, a lot of it does relate to Korea, I have to say, but you might get YouTube suggesting stuff to you all the time that you really don't want, and you might unsubscribe anyway, and then we won't be able to get a gauge who's really sticking around. And we just like to, we were thinking, so it's really whether we should or not create another YouTube channel, which would be the Not So Korean podcast.
Yeah, a channel just for the Not So Korean podcast, right?
Yeah, so that's a simple yes or no, I guess, for that.
Yeah.
So number 6, do you want to do?
Yeah, number 6. So we're thinking whether to stick with just the audio podcast, or would you like to see us actually record video of our podcast? And even potentially we could do some more like out and about style videos where we go to a restaurant or something and record what we're doing.
That'd be we've considered that ourselves, but
we can't guarantee that we're going to do that right away, but it is something we're thinking about for the future potentially.
That's the next one. That's number 6.
Let us know what you think about that idea.
Video, audio, or even if it's every other one video or something.
Yeah.
Number 7 of 8, which so far out of the 7 we've done, 2 of which have been interviews and a couple of introductions and what have you. Which episode did you like the most? That's a simple one, really.
Yeah, and why? What did you like about it? Or were there any particular things that we mentioned or interviews that we had that you liked?
Yeah, that's number 8. So sorry, we went into number 8 there. So that's which subjects you like us to cover.
Well, that would be for the future.
Sorry. That's for the future. Sorry, we're confusing it. So we'll just go through those quickly. Then we've got sort of a bonus question in a second. So basically, number 1 is which day are you happy with the day it is? Saturdays, which obviously you can listen to in your own leisure anyway, whichever day of the week, but which you would prefer it to be released. Number 2, basically, do we start a Facebook group so you can all interact? Number 3, which is other social media platforms you might prefer. And number 4, is it too long or too short? Maybe number 5 is whether we start our own YouTube channel separate to the one that's already there. Do you want to do the last few, Tim? Or should I carry on?
Yeah, you can.
Sorry, I get carried away with this.
Go ahead.
I talk too much sometimes. So number 6, should we basically do it video instead of audio? Number 7, which episode did you like the most, or which things did you like about an episode or certain episodes? Number 8, which subjects would you like us to cover, or even people you'd like us to interview? We already have some interviews lined up, but it would be great to hear from you guys. This one we've kind of thrown in. This might become a bit of a trend, a fad or something, a bit of a craze. We realised that we could kind of get hip with the kids. Obviously, we're young at heart anyway. But when we're the Not So Korean podcast, and we were thinking we could call ourselves, the the no so ko po.
Yeah, as an abbreviation or an abbreviated form of the Not So Korean podcast.
I mean, Tim, you know, if I was saying to you, do you like the no so ko po, bro?
Yeah. So, I mean, we
Might
were
be a bit
even
too streetwise.
thinking of using this for our email address, but apparently somebody has already taken it. I don't know who.
It's unbelievable that someone's already got that.
Yeah, so anyway, but you could refer to us as the No So Kopo if you prefer, or do you think that's a stupid idea and we should just forget about it?
Yeah. But anyway, you might see it splashed on our little thumbnails and our pictures anyway, because we're just trying it out. So that's it. That's kind of a bonus mention. So just to let you know, responding to us now, of course, people do already comment on our YouTube videos, so that's always a place that you can comment and say this to us under any video. You can send us an Instagram message, or you can even comment, I guess, under something. And you could send us a Facebook message on the page itself. Sometimes that doesn't always notify us of things immediately, but you can always, you know, I'm sure you can find us also individually on Facebook. But the last thing, of course, is email, because we've got an email address. Unfortunately, it's not what we wanted, but it's just as good. It's the not so Korean podcast at gmail.com. So it's just not so Korean podcast at gmail.com. Now, of course, whether we get, you know, a few people or whether we get quite a few people, we will still, you know, we'll take all comments into consideration, but we'll make our own minds as well up regarding, depending on the particular point that's raised, and it's, as long as it's not something too crazy, especially like the interviews. Who would you like to interview? And it wasn't like the president of Korea or something,
or BTS,
or North Korea or South Korea, or BTS. I
can't see Jason doing any K-pop interviews in the future. Sorry, folks.
Not K-pop, Korean indie, and other kind of Korean music, great, you know, and you know, there's other ones that do actually cross over into K-pop that can be talented as well. So don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna diss them here.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if BTS were to actually contact us directly and demand that we interview them, you might be free, Tim. You would probably go for that.
I think we could probably find some screaming fans that might jump at the chance to take my place for the week, or I might just, you know, have to just completely, you know, drug myself or something, and knock myself out and just pretend I'm not actually in the moment when I am. So we normally end the show with, this has been a very different show to the last few, and all of them actually, but we always end it with events that are coming up, news or events that are coming up, and we're just going to mention one. Well, it's actually quite a big one.
Things, really.
Yeah, I'll let you move on. So I'll let you talk about this.
Well, we mentioned the Hallyu Con, which is also related to the KBCE, but as I said, that's coming up on September 4th, so next week. And but the bigger event coming up for us, at least, is on September 18th, and that will be in Kingston, but more specifically in New Malden. And that's the Kingston Korea Festival, or the Harvest Fest, right?
Yeah, Chisholk, it's also known as. But it's we're quite heavily involved with that, at least the video side, but maybe some other aspects. But it's we've been to it before. Both of us have actually been to it, and it's always a very good atmosphere. There is going to be live events happening, but also online. So
and
it's going to mix up.
We are planning to possibly do our own podcast from the festival, but we haven't worked out all the details.
Yeah, we're not sure if it's going to be live or recorded live, or just from live on our Instagram.
And we're also expecting Hanguk Hapa to be there. She may be hosting it. She may not.
We're not sure.
We're a bit
in the dark about that.
But we hope to see her there as well.
Yeah, the KBCE do. In fact, we didn't mention this in previous shows, believe it or not, but they do actually have a website at the moment. I think it's only got stuff from last year.
Right.
They're also on Facebook. I think there's two places that are on Facebook, but the website is kbce.org.uk.
Right.
And as I always said before, Korean British Cultural Exchange. And they do a lot of work for many different things. They do the Kimjang Festival, which is the... Oh, and also, we were going to mention this, weren't we? The interview with the person that is
Yes, so we
the
will
big
be
boss.
doing an interview with the very wonderful woman who runs the KBCE at the moment.
Yeah, Miss Zhang. Yeah,
Justina Zhang, or J.E. Zhang. So please expect that interview probably a week before the festival. So that would be September 11th if we get all our ducks in a row, so to speak.
Yeah, and we did promise at the beginning of this show, it seems a long time ago away now, that we would mention the interview that we have got lined up. I think we did touch on it earlier, but it's Hanguk
Hapa.
That's right. Yeah. So basically, if you haven't seen her, that's Hanguk and then Hapa.
Yeah, Hanguk as in Korean or Korea, and Hapa as in half or half-y.
Yeah. Like selfie, but half-y.
Yeah, so because she's half Korean, half British.
Yeah. So she's our next person that you'll hear. The next interview will be from her.
That'll be next week for the first part.
All should be next week. The part 1 at least, and and that's pretty much it. We wanted to keep it short. We've actually probably almost hit some of our normal
we're about
lengths.
half an hour through,
but we're not as long as last time, which was almost 45 minutes. So we'll just play out with the song that we've been playing out for the last few weeks, and that's by the artist Kaya, and that is new Arirang, that version, and it's called, and from the album Korean Breeze, and that's it.
All right, 안녕히
계세요.